I love beautiful things, and indeed I am in a beautiful house today. Welcome to PM Express Personality Profile. My name is Nana Ansakwa. I'm in this wonderful house with manicured gardens, pristine decor with everything hanging where it's supposed to be. Indeed, I think I'm presenting MTN Cribs, but no, it's not MTN Cribs. It's still Personality Profile, and I'm in this personality's house. And in the background is the sound of the national anthem on his grand piano. It tells you that he's a patriot. He's probably very angry. Who else will play the national anthem in the morning? Unless, of course, you have a passion for your nation and you have the urge to change things. And I can't wait to talk to this chap. I've read about him on the internet. I've seen him on radio, on television, heard him on radio. And today I am in his house, and indeed it's a beautiful house. But I just want to find out what's in it, what makes him who he is. I'm not going to give it away until after the break. But while we just hear a beautiful piece, that sound that makes us who we are, that sounds that anywhere you hear the sound, you know that indeed Ghana is being represented. And sometimes it has brought tears to the high and mighty. Boxers, footballers, presidents are welcome to this sound. So indeed today, to all of us being welcomed by this sound, we must be very, very privileged. But not until after the break, we just say we are privileged to be here, to be talking to one wonderful Ghanaian. And right after the break, you know who I'm talking to. Indeed, God bless our homeland, Ghana, right after the break. Hello and welcome back after the break. You can see from my excitement, this beautiful, serene environment, this lovely manicured garden, everything is in the right place. And I've read about this gentleman, I've followed him online, seen him on telly, listened to him on radio, and eventually I get an invitation to be inquisitive in his house. I am privileged to be talking to Ace Ankomah. Ace, I'm welcoming myself to your house.
What do you say when someone welcomes himself?
You know?
Thank you for welcoming yourself.
Now, I must say on record that, the manicured garden is Mrs. Ankomah. Ace, just like me, just enjoys it. But,
Thanks for that. I'll sleep easy tonight.
Ace, what gets you angry in this, what makes you angry?
Poverty, disease, Africa. Africa makes me angry all the time.
Wow. The sense that we could have achieved more and we're not achieving.
Yes, the sense that we don't have an excuse. And we have created our excuse. I do not see how God getting us with more melanin than anybody else and giving us all the sunshine is somehow a liability. So one thing that makes me angry is Africa and poverty. The poverty we see here. It is completely unjustified. We have enough to live like kings, but we are living like paupers. Africa makes me angry.
Wow. Ace, at the beginning of Now, let me just say again that, I think this is the most timely interview I've ever done. And they say time is everything. Can you, considering yesterday was Judgment Day, and then on Friday I'm doing personality profile and I'm talking to Ace Ankomah, who's, literally legal luminary in Ghana. So we'll be in and out of the court case and we'll be everywhere. As you know me, there's no direction to my interviews, but we'll get there at the end. Ace, at the beginning of the court case, I was one of those who thought, oh, forget it, nothing is going to come out of it. At the end of it, I thought, oh, it was a wise decision because now we were very educated. I don't know where you stood at the beginning.
At the very beginning, I thought that they needed to build the case very much. But for the court allowing the amendments, this case would have been dead long ago. It took a long time to resolve the case itself, which just shows that the 21 days
wasn't enough.
It's probably not enough. You want to audit an election of 26,000 polling stations and say, put your case together within 21 days. That is what the Kenyans didn't have, and that's what we got. I think that we are all seeing with the wisdom of hindsight that this has been a worthwhile exercise. It's been emotional, it's been temperamental, it's been 8 months. But at the end of the day, I think that we are better as a people than we were when we started. I'm saying that the president is, in my view, a better president today than he was yesterday. Because here he has the validation. He will look back and say, that was close in some respects. But at the end of the day, there can be no legal or plausible challenge to his presidency. And so we have the rest of the 4 years left, 3 years and some 4 months, to fix this broken nation. So I think we are better off as a people. We have tested our electoral process through elections. It has evolved from 92. We have tested it through the courts, and the system has survived with a lot of corrections. Obviously, there are a lot of changes to be made. And I think that in some of the judgments, when we get to see them, there are roadmaps to electoral reforms that must happen. I think that we are better off as a people this morning than we were yesterday.
Wow. Ace, I want to find where you get your sense of patriotism from. Even though it might seem a simple question, you don't find many patriotic Ghanaians, especially those in place of influence that could have made a change. So where do you find yours from?
I was born here. I mean, if God
so are many. I don't want to mention names, but so are many.
I was born here. I had the opportunity to change even my nationality. I had the privilege of going to school elsewhere, and the opportunity existed. I was back in Ghana 3 days after defending my thesis. Okay, some would say I came to get married, but that's another story. I love Ghana. I just love here. I fell in love with Ghana from day one, and I haven't gotten over it. Look, there's no better patch of earth that God created than this country. I can speak my mind freely, and others can speak their mind freely if they disagree with me. But you know what I like? When I enter a shop in Ghana, I'm not checked out by security on account of the color of my skin. Furthermore, when I walk down the street, almost everybody I see looks like me. Right? There's no better place. With all the watts and everything, look, this is still the best place to be. Trust me.
Do you see, anytime we build value with ourselves, we don't add the fact that the next guy on the street will say good morning, you don't get checked out in the shop, you're almost guaranteed sunshine, you're not going to wake up into a snow blizzard. We don't add those things to our worth or our value.
Although I'll say that in some of my cynical moments, I say that what Africa needs is snow.
Would have waken us up.
Yeah, if you know that for half the year, your land is untillable, you will learn to plan. Now we have too much sunshine. So if it's mango season, we eat mangoes till mangoes go. And if it's pawpaw season, we eat pawpaw till pawpaws go. Now guess what? When we say pawpaws have gone, you will find pawpaw at Waitrose in London in winter because they have learned to preserve. So although I say it's a cynical statement,
of course.
I like to say that if we had snow, we probably will learn how to plan better. You are triggering my Africa thing this morning.
I know, right?
It's a sore point with me.
So our case has been abundance.
I think so. And the inability to manage the abundance. We take the abundance for granted. Until you lose a thing, you probably will not appreciate its value. And so if we lost some of the sunshine for 6 months in a year, we will plan better. We live in this country. The closest cocoa tree to Switzerland. It's probably in the Ashanti region. But they produce more chocolates than we do. There's more gold probably in the vaults in Swiss banks than there is in Ghana, where we've been mining gold for over 100 years. Tell me which town in Ghana looks like we've been mining gold for 100 years. Go to Obuasi, Takwa, and all those. They don't even have motorable roads, but they've been mining gold for 100 years. These are the things that make me angry. And maybe if we didn't have them, we will plan. Switzerland has next to nothing. It's just mountains and a few goats giving them milk. But they make more chocolates. They have the banks. They've established a reputation that we do not have. Our chocolates do not stand a chance on the world market. We like to pamper ourselves that our chocolates are great. But Pebbles has remained Pebbles since I was a kid, with one flat groundnut in the middle.
The same uneven shape.
Thank you.
You see, why is the average Ghanaian not angry? I mean, if I were to do a census of people with this frustration, I'll probably get, maybe a notebook, and the rest would not even understand why you're angry about this.
Jerry Rollins made a statement a while back. He said he's a product of a people's anger. We have gotten angry before, but I think that we have been frustrated with time and basically accepted it. Look, if I can make a couple of square meals a day and wake up the next morning and be alive, I'm happy with it. So out of the expectations at independence, we expected things will just, we were going to the example to Africa, then it bombed. Then the military guys came, the small amenity school, the liberation coup, the revolutionary coup. We've seen it all. We've seen every kind of government, and we're still where we are. So I think that the Ghanaian is frustrated and expresses his frustration in just let it go. But I believe that it was Lee Kuan Yew who said that Africa deserves a generation of angry young people who are frustrated at the failures and willing to work hard to make something out of their lives. It is possible to do it in Ghana in a big way, but the frustration has gotten the better of us. So yeah, we need a bunch of angry people. You are right, I'm an angry man.
Again, you see, Africa every time it just takes the one person to sort of start a revolution or start a new craze or a new movement. But have you realized that even your sympathetic statement in trying to help the weak is the weak that will turn up the next day and lambast you in the papers that look at the nonsense Ace is talking about?
Yeah, well, if you don't have the skin for it, then you probably won't do it. And you're right, there are times I felt frustrated. I mean, here I am on radio picking up a fight with the military for beating up 2 people they had arrested in Boku. And caller after caller is angry that I'm angry. And I'm sitting there and saying that, you know what? Nobody's going to arrest me and slap me, ever in this country. Nobody's going to stop me and hit me. Police, that's not going to happen. Military, that's not going to happen. Because you might very well hit me, but take it from me. We are going to have a fight. You will regret it. Okay? So if I were looking at myself, if I were inward looking, I wouldn't care. And that is what has happened in Ghana. I always make this point. The middle class who should be leading the fight, the revolution, have given up. They are in Hotel California. They've checked out of Ghana, but they just can't get out. Their kids go to dollar schools. They live in fortified mansions. They drive forward. So tell me about the problem in Ghana. There's no water. They have the water plants in their house. There's no electricity. They have a genset. The roads are bad. They have 4-wheel drives. There's no. The schools are bad. They take their kids to dollar schools and fly them out of the country. Health. They have 6 hours. Bad health situation, 6 hours flight to London, and they have the best medical care. So the middle class has checked out, and I'm saying that that's where the danger is, because one day the people of Ghana, the anger is going to explode again, and when the anger explodes, we'll call them armed robbers.
You see, one thing that scares me, I don't know if you've noticed, is sometimes on my way to work I pull up at the Fiesta Royal traffic light. And I could swear that every day there are 10 or 20 more people that come towards the car when the light turns red. I'm wondering, at what point will it stop? And I don't know if you've noticed, and if you know, at what point is it going to stop?
Look, they say fish rots from the head. Everything starts with a leader, but it ultimately must reflect on the people. It was Max Dupree who said that the sign of a good leader is not in the quality of the head, but the tone of the body. We've had a complete leadership paralysis in this country. We have leaders who have no clue where to take this country. And so I think it was Archbishop Duncan Williams who says, if the man hasn't run a business before, he can't run your country. Okay? He or she can't run your country. Now, we have been in leadership paralysis. My honest view is that we've not had that Ace Ankomah, and very gradually, to some extent.
Achampong?
Achampong, I think that will need to be redefined.
I think I'm
Nkrumah, and Buzi had a vision. It was too short. Achampong,
he was a doer.
There's some redefinition of Achampong that he probably wasn't as. He shouldn't be as bastardized as he is by the unfortunate recount of our history. Gradually, J. Kufuor, gradually, maybe on account of what has happened subsequently to the economy after he left. But we need to move to another pedestal. We need a leader who is going to determine where we are going next. Are we going industrialization, or are we going to become a service industry? We've always thought the groundwork is good, we are moving forward, but really, nothing is really happening. The economic indicators keep going up and down. It will go up and down. Look, that is where the problem is with leadership. Because if you think that leadership is simply just putting money into the pockets of your cronies, you've lost it. How are we going to build it in such a way that the people who actually own this country are benefiting from the resources of the country? There's a lot to do with legislation. If we have a system where 100% of the gold mined in this country leaves Ghana, because I think until recently we didn't have a gold refinery. So if he takes the gold out of Ghana and says when he refined it, he got 2 ounces.
How do you know? How do you know?
We have a problem. God put crude oil in this land from the day he created Ghana. It took people from elsewhere to come and get it. So they get a majority of it. We get carried interest, maybe taxes, royalties. There's something wrong, and it is not where God put us. It is us. It starts from the mind. You are what you think you are. And that is where I think we need to start with. We need a nation of critical thinkers. Thinking, speaking, and doing.
But I got 2 questions. My first question is the same question that the critical thinkers, and I keep saying this, that Professor Akosa said that by now there should have been a detailed report of how President Mills passed. And number 2, we should ask that all these ambulances tooting up and down, indeed, are they able to support life?
A lot of ambulances are going to buy breakfast for the doctor.
He got lambasted.
He's beating traffic to buy.
And just like you defending the guy who got beaten at Boko, he is a doctor. He's got doctors on his phone, and anytime he has a headache, I'm sure he can call his colleague doctor. So we who would need the ambulance were the ones who completely told him off.
But he too, on account of having gone to school in Ghana, has that responsibility placed on him, and I admire him for what he does, because he can be living a better life elsewhere, but chose to come here and do his medicine and do a little bit of politics along. So people like that ought to be admired. But people like him who have been through the school, look, everybody who has been through school, public school in Ghana, has enjoyed a government scholarship. So the person on the street has looked after you. So we all owe them a duty to ensure that what we have studied and what we have become benefits those people in the street. And so he may be lambasted, but look, he has a thick skin. I've met the man. He has a thick skin. He's not worried by that at all.
My next question is leadership. Have we created a system that doesn't allow leadership? Because even if Ace, with your patriotism, your passion and your anger, I took you there, it would take you a year to campaign. I now give you probably 2.5 years to do miracles, and then you need another year to campaign, which is completely money infested, because indeed you get out of Accra and you can't tell them that I need to do tourism. They'll look at you thinking, what tourism? Come and dig gold and give me 50 cedis and let me get on with it. How do I make a leader out of you?
It starts for the Ghanaian. It starts a step at a time. It starts with a group of people who are dissatisfied with the system and say we're going to do it differently. Okay, I do not believe that it is every MP who monetize his campaign. I don't believe that. Of course, it costs some money to get there. The cronyism and the fact that you have to pay people to serve them. You want to be an MP, you are a servant. In fact, ministers are even going to, you're called a minister. A minister is a servant. Now, you got to pay people for them to vote for you, to serve them. There's something wrong with that picture. And I believe that it takes a group of people who are going to say that we will do it and not mind the consequences. Look, when Kennedy died, and we've just been celebrating the 50th anniversary of I Have a Dream speech by King. Now, Kennedy died and Johnson became vice president. He said, we are going to pass the Civil Liberties Act. It means we are going to lose the South for a generation. He went ahead and passed it. His party hasn't won the South for a generation, but they still won some elections. It is the fear of losing elections that is at the heart of our problem. But if we get a president who says, you know what, damn the consequences, I'm going to fix this nation. 4 years is more than enough. He can fix this nation. He might lose the next election, but years down the line, we're going to say that he or she was probably the president we needed at the time. But you have a party with hangers on, people whose lives depend on politics. Outside politics, they are nobody. They only become somebody when there's politics. Then you have a problem because the president will not be allowed to carry the agenda through. We can't even tax properly in this country. And we think that somebody will give us money. Look, isn't it a shame that our president lives in a house built for us by another country?
That is wrong.
But it's Africa. The AU headquarters was built for us by the Chinese. So the Indians have built us a presidential palace. Well, we spent some money in it, but look at that. Our Ministry of Foreign Affairs is in a Chinese constructed building. Ministry of Defense is a Chinese constructed building. Our president lives in an Indian constructed building. We have to get to the stage where there's a certain sense of self-worth. I understand that I must pay taxes for this nation to move forward. The road to my house is terrible, but I keep on paying the taxes. We all must bear our part. But you see, many Ghanaians do not care because they really don't pay any taxes. You take better care of something you buy as against something you receive for free. That is part of our problem.
It's always. Go to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
The verdict. I didn't know what to expect. All I wanted was that I can come and sit here in Ace's house, beautiful garden, have a chat with no machetes after me, no, do you want long sleeves or short sleeves? Pay $3 and let me shoot you. That's what I wanted. I didn't care how the results went. I just wanted to live this life. Come here with my crew and talk to you. So as for me, I'm happy with it. However, have we set a precedence with this verdict that came out? I mean, I need a legal brain in this.
Look, it is always difficult to remove an incumbent, either through elections or through the courts. Our situation is unique. We actually swear in the president, and then you have to remove him. So guess what? If we had woken up the day after the election and EC had announced that the most unlikely candidate had won, the most unlikely of the candidates had won, we have to live with him till the Supreme Court decides otherwise, or her. So we have evolved a system. The system needed to be tested. It has been tested. On three of what I always considered minor issues, the court was unanimous in dismissing them. But on the other three, very interesting developments have come up. A system survives when it's tested. We are all yet to read the detailed judgments.
Yeah.
My understanding is that a lot of the judges spent a lot of ink putting in place roadmaps, criticizing what had happened and saying, look, this, that and the other is what we need to do. Let's wait till we see the poems that these ladies and gentlemen have put together for us. There might be in there some jewels, some gems that we can harvest to make our electoral system better and our political system better. So the victor deserves his day in the sun, and he was quite muted yesterday. I don't know whether the president was quite muted in his speech. I don't know whether that was it was an act or it was really to tamp down expectations. The victor, the vanquished, conceded. He says, it hurts, but look, I accept it. We move on. You can't have it better than that. In many other countries, this would have led to war. Guess what? We are sitting here this morning and nothing has happened. I haven't heard that anybody has lost a hair out of this. Ghana, and that's why I love this place. Not that, yes, we have problems with our being too over-reticent and everything, but look, this country is a great country. So legally, there's a lot for all of us to learn. We only have the summary of the verdict from yesterday.
Yeah.
We saw how things panned out. We need to read those judgments and start writing about it, start serializing it, and seeing what we can pick from there to make ourselves a better country. Trust me, in 2016, there's not going to be a single pink sheet that's not signed, or there's not going to be a single pink sheet that records 2070 as the election result. It's not going to happen.
We will monitor it.
I'll give the example. If you go to, I must give the US as an example. In every precinct, we might call it constituency, they have, each party has about 10 lawyers ready to mount a challenge, a legal challenge, the next minute. What do we do here? Each party will have about 10 lawyers in each precinct, just watching the proceedings, and with drafts of cases to be filed the minute something goes wrong. We need to get to that level of readiness, and that is that level of preparation that makes countries great. Not this.
I'm happy with the acceptance of rule of law, though, and the appreciation of rule of law, which this case has brought out.
This is Ghana. This is the best patch of earth Ghana created. We've God created. I'm telling you. Everything is here, except the way we think. If we change that, we're gone.
Romans 12, chapter 2. Do not conform to the ways of the world, but be transformed in the mind.
Then you will prove that good, perfect, and acceptable will of God.
We're coming straight back after the break. Welcome back to the show. I'm having this interesting conversation with Ace Ankomah. What a beautiful conversation. Just before the break, we were talking about renewing the mind. It's all going to start from education. Before I go back to the courtroom, is education. I think that's where my anger is in education. The fact that a geographical location just determines whether you make or break in a nation. It's almost suicidal. It's very unfair that, child just lives, probably 2 hours away from the capital. And just for that reason, he's probably never ever going to make it. The chances of never making it is so high. Denied electricity, denied ICT, teacher won't turn up early. And that hurts me. And if all this renewing of the mind is going to come, we need to renew the minds of that child too.
Doubtlessly, without a doubt. Look, education is one of my passions. It's one of my strong points. And once again, it's not rocket science. I don't think so. But what have our politicians done with education in the past couple of years? Fight over whether it's 4 or 3 years. That was a crying shame. Huge crying shame. When it had to do with, we had it 3 years, somebody made it 4 years, we bad it 3 years, well, somebody made it 3 years, we changed it to 4 years. What was the analysis? Where was the critical thinking? Geography determines your education, not just here. In many countries, you go to the school in your district. If it's a public school, you are not allowed to cross districts to another school.
No.
Which means that then I must fight for the schools in my district to do well. How many Ghanaians have written to their MPs to say that the schools in my constituency are crap, and that or the district chief executive? How many? That is part of our problem. We do not demand enough of them because we don't expect anything from them. And so when we make those demands, they're also going to ask, how do we make the monies to build good schools in our districts for the children? You see that everything dovetails into another. The renewal of the mind. So the educational system is critical, and it ought to be funded. How? By taxes, of course. By taxes, of course. Look at Tema. Look at how well laid out it is. Look at the kind of houses that are in Tema. How much property tax does Tema raise? I don't remember last time I got an assessment. I probably have to go and offer to pay. It's in these little things that if I'm just using Tema as an example because I live in Tema. If we put Tema together and got 300 lawyers, collect property taxes, Tema will change. It will build better schools. So it's about education, the renewal of the mind. It ought to be funded from somewhere, and that's where the critical thinking ought to go. But maybe the politicians don't want an educated population. Have you thought about that?
That was my next question.
Ireland devoted 30 years into education and it changed that country. We haven't done it because an educated person will not accept some of the mediocrity we get from our leaders. So maybe to a very large extent, it is in their interest that the Ghanaian remains largely uninterested, disengaged, and uneducated. But that is where you and I, who have benefited from the education system, ought to be challenging the government. It's a crying shame that you don't have to drive out of Accra. You can drive around these areas and find that there's very low quality sitting next door to high quality. We have a problem, and it's leadership. But we need that renewal of the mind, and all of us who have been beneficiaries of the system owe it a duty to Ghana to make sure that things change.
See, when the court case was coming, there was all this agitation of people, there might be unrest if it doesn't go away and everything. And I do a show on Joy FM called That's My Opinion. So I gave a few statistics. Legon ranks, I think, 5,700 in university rankings.
It's not 10,000?
5,700. There were 15% of households, people in Ghana who had access to sanitation. 15%. And the statistics went on. So I was just saying that, those are the things that we should be angry about, and not what Justice Atuguba says. It's neither here or there. But you find that the general majority, the MPP prayed and did overnight when Sir John was going to be incarcerated or reprimanded. I'm thinking, if I was God and I blessed you with all these things, and you can't feed your children and you came to me with this prayer, I would have been upset.
Let me get more into my cynical mode. There are times when I actually feel sorry for God. The good book says that Moses went to him praying and said, "Look, what do you have in your hands?" He was like, "Excuse me, dummy. I've taken you through enough. You should be able to do this on yourself, by yourself." Often we use God as a spare tire. Often man has created God in his own image and after his own likeness. We have decided who God is and what he should do. He's exploited, defamed, and his name is used for all kinds of dubious things. If a man who should know better doesn't behave better, I think that what you should be doing is asking for forgiveness. What about God and the other countries who are doing well? Does he prefer them to us? No. That's why I say you're triggering my cynical side. That the story is told that when God created Ghana, he gave us too much. Too much. Gold, diamond, bauxite, fertile land. I even understand that there are studies in Ghana which show that we can grow apples and potatoes in the Koro Mountains.
Wow.
But we import onions from Burkina Faso and Niger and Mali. No, not Mali. Burkina Faso and Niger. They are in deserts. They grow onions. I understand that when we were going to have CAN 2008, we learnt a bit about stadium grass from Burkina Faso. Okay.
Dry Burkina Faso.
Yes. That's where we are. And this doesn't make us angry enough. So I understand God gave us too much. And the angels protested. And they kept, of course, this is a story. And when they protested, God said, "It's okay. Wait till you see the people I'll put there."
And here we are. And here we are.
50-something years after Ankomah declared, here we are. Rank poverty in our faces. It's a thinking thing. I tell my kids, it's all about the mind, baby. You are who you think you are. If you think you're a grasshopper, that is what you are. If you think you're a giant, that is what you are. Because you live the way you think. It's got to start with a thought revolution. And that's why I'm grateful for Legacy and Legacy, what Albert and Kopoto are doing. Pumping into the minds of the youth that you can be something. Maybe this generation is over.
We had a talking generation.
You see, there was the suppressed generation who endured the coups and said nothing. Mm-hmm. I think we are the talking generation, I can say. The thinking generation is coming. There's hope.
Hopefully they'll think and do.
Oh, the thinking generation.
Hopefully we are doing as well.
You are what you think. If you think, you do it. So maybe the next generation will be better. But as for us, I think it's a lost cause.
Yeah, we failed the nation. I'll go back to the courtroom. This idea of overvoting, and maybe I'm not supposed to go there, but I ask you. Okay.
Right, the case is over.
Okay. So there's 10 people in your household, and it's the Ace polling station. So I bring you 10 ballot papers, and 5 o'clock, voting is over. So I come to pick you up, and there's 13 papers. Would that not be basic? That hold on, Ace. I mean, there's a bit more papers in the box than I gave you.
We need to read the judgments. Because from what I see, 4 of the judges had a problem with it. Mm-hmm. Now that's close. 5 didn't, but 4 had a problem with it. Mm-hmm. It was a hypocrite who said 7 people shared 7,000 and 1 didn't get. This is it. 10 people have voted and we have 13 votes. Mm-hmm. There is something inherently wrong with that. Mm-hmm. We need to read these judgments. Maybe it might not have been enough. You see, that's my suspicion. That with the number of, maybe when the judges did their own math, it wasn't enough to overturn the election. And that is why probably that was lost. Mm-hmm. So we need to watch the judgments very carefully when we see them. I haven't seen them yet, but so we are all guessing. So there is a problem with that. And I believe that when we have read and digested these judgments, those things will not happen again. At least those who try it will have an uphill task. But it is time to ask EC, how was that possible? My message to EC all the time is that gold cannot rust. EC has to be gold.
Yeah.
They cannot rust. And so EC got to go back and look at the systems to see the case wasn't successful. But there are a lot of things that have come out. How do we ensure that this does not happen again? We are now understanding that those pink sheets do not arrive at EC until EC has declared the elections. The declaration in the polling station stays there. It's a summary that comes to EC. I mean, we are all learning these things for the first time. So maybe we need to ask ourselves whether the time we use to declare elections is it too short? What should we do? Should there be a pre-audit, post-audit? There are things that we must discuss. And I think that if we don't fall back and say, oh, it's all over, let's just move on. And we start doing a critical analysis, we probably can evolve a completely enviable electoral system in Ghana.
Do we need more than 4 years? If we are going to run this system that we are using, then should we just extend the time and at least give...
I'll tell you what, it's a difficult question. I've thought about this for years. The flip side to that is, what if we get a dummy as president? Then we are stuck with him or her for 6, 7, 8 years. Now, we took this after America, the 4-year term thing. They're assuming that 4 is fine. In other countries, there are technically no term limits. I mean, you stay until the people really don't like you, and then somehow they sample that it's time to have an election, and then they have an election. But we have to be able to maintain the balance. If we have a good president, he can rest assured that he will win the next election, because the people will appreciate the work. Even if they vote you out of power, they can see what you've done. You probably will return to power. It's not every American president who had 8 years. Some had 4, they were voted out, they were voted back in. History has enough examples.
Hey, but here's a case where, imagine, President Mahama said, you know what, I don't want anybody selling outside again. I mean, his party gurus are going to say, what are you talking about? Don't you know when you go, we also have to come and have our turn, and if you get these guys out, it means that none of us will also get, picking on the cherry. So then he's stuck between, do I obey the party? Do I do what is right? Because indeed it's the party that brought him there.
So what choice will he exercise? That is what will make him a good president, or fitting and deserving to be a president or not. What is his constituency? Is his constituency Ghana or his party?
See, but then, at what point did you realize your constituency? When we were running up and down, bringing you there, you didn't realize you had a constituency. Now that we brought you there and we also won the power, now you want to do what's right. So he's torn between...
He's torn, but he's president. That is why we voted for him. If he's incapable of making that decision, then he's not fit to be president. But if he makes the decision and he decides to play ball with his people, and so everything's going to roll as usual, then that's it. He's a lost cause. We might list him in the list of presidents, but we'll list him and say, he did next to nothing. As we can indeed say of some of the presidents that we've had. And leaders, whether they came in through the gun, heads of states, chairman, whatever. So, he has. It's an unenviable place to be in. I don't envy any president, because you're right. There are forces pushing and pulling in various directions, and he's got to have the soundness of mind to decipher all of that and determine in the final analysis what is in the best interest of the country. And that is why we ought to judge him after 4 years, because if he becomes president and he has a 7-year term, and he decides to play party ball at the expense of Ghana, we have 7 years of rubbish. We can't live with that. Let's keep on doing 4 years.
See, I listened to the verdict yesterday, and after the verdict, I just said to myself, if I was Nana Addo, I'll go to church and say, thank you, God. Now that I've declared, I've made myself a statesman. Everybody's going to say, oh, thank you for... And if I was president, I'll go to church and say, my goodness, what do I do with this? 8 billion upside down in debt. JIDA. You have the park people, and they remind me of the children around, company where he born, company where he ton. Return man when ye nim, what on the ye nim, almost every, where do you go from here with this?
So you don't envy the president for being president, and you don't envy Nana Addo for losing.
No.
Somebody's got to do the job, and people put themselves out to do it. I believe that I would love to believe that they are influenced not by self-interest but by a certain sense of self-sacrifice to do that job. Thank God and then get to work. Yes, acknowledge the divine one and roll up those sleeves and get right to work. Get into the trenches and fix this nation. We have elected President Mahama to fix this nation, and by God he has to do it. Because in 3 years and 4 months we are going to determine whether he has fixed it. And if he hasn't, he will hear from us. And if he has, he will hear from us. For me, the issue is not the party. The issue is the individual. Whether he can do the work, whether she can do the work. And if he does it, he can be assured that the people of Ghana will put him right back in power. If he doesn't do it, he will hear from the people of Ghana. Then he will be going to church and giving a concession speech.
Oh, what a job I don't envy. What a job I don't envy. Hey, another thing is our media. The fourth arm of government, the fourth realm of government, the fourth estate, the watchman, the gatekeeper. Have we lived up to expectation? I mean, have we lived up to expectation?
We must acknowledge where we've come from. Where we called every newspaper graphic because that's all we had. Mm-hmm. And we called every station FM because we had one FM station. Mm-hmm. The plurality is something we have to acknowledge. It has served us well. There is indeed great talent and great work. I mean, you cannot watch BBC without seeing Komna and feeling proud that this is a product of Ghana. He hasn't been to journalism school. Okay, it's phenomenal. In many ways, the press have done their work. Who would have known about JIDA but for the press? All the charge investigations that went on, a lot of them come out through the press. But the press is like yin yang, good bad. It's a mix. How we manage that mix is what will help this country. Sometimes the pressman is motivated by maybe vengeance against a political guy and puts up a story. Maybe true, maybe untrue. But society has to learn how to manage the press because the press is a reflection of the society wherever you go. And I am very critical when they make mistakes. I think that in a sense I still serve on the Journalists Association's disciplinary council or advisory council. I don't even remember. I think it's a disciplinary council. I don't remember the last time we sat. Although I can see all infractions almost every day. We have to live with it and strive to make it better. But like I said, it's a mix. It's a hodgepodge. It's two things, good and bad. How we manage the good and bad is what will give us a good result. Once again, the good book talks about that all things work together. The good, the bad, they're not so good, they're not so bad. It's the mix of it. But the end result is that the nation must benefit. And I think that that's what we ought to be looking at with the media.
You see, in terms of priorities, I think the media has also gotten their priorities wrong, so that because we set the agenda for the radios to pick it up, they will always pick up, things which, this MP, the politician, the MP, the politician. So the basic things like apples can be grown in Kwahu Mountains, potatoes can be grown in Kwahu Mountains, is not picked up to be discussed and then get done.
I have a suggestion. Let's make it more difficult for people to become journalists, qualified journalists. Let's make it a graduate program, or Ghanaians will say postgraduate program. Go and study law, sociology, agriculture, whatever, and then become a journalist. So if I studied law and then I studied journalism, I will be reporting from the court as a journalist, but also as a lawyer.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the quality of how that report will be like? I mean, the generality of Ghana has had to rely on Mabel Banese, who has no legal training, but does phenomenal work all the same, the graphic reporter of the courts, right? And I think that there's a lot of encouragement for her to get the law qualification as well. It might not work with people might think it's not, but I think that we ought to make journalism, communication studies, a graduate program. Finish your degree and then do it. So you're an expert in journalism, but you're an expert in something else.
Yes.
And it helps inform the way you set the agenda. We want the agenda to be set by journalists. In fact, we don't have a choice. Agenda will always be set by journalists. What is the quality? So that is one suggestion that I have. There are many things to do, but my view, and if I had the opportunity, I would say School of Journalism, it is for people who are going in and have some tertiary education. Go to Poly, come up with an electronics qualification, and then study journalism. So that when you're working in that area, you are there. We see them on CNN. You see great minds. Sanjay Gupta is an established doctor, neurosurgeon, and he's reporting for a news for a TV station, and there's no shame with that. I'm not sure. I don't know if he's done any journalism courses, but these are the things that challenge me. These are the things that I think about. May or may not work, but my view is that School of Journalism should be where people who have basic tertiary education, the polytechnics or the universities, go to become journalists.
See, I'm a traditional ruler, so I'm very biased when it comes to our culture. And I feel that, you cannot leave your culture and advance in any which way you are. I mean, I think the Chinese, have one of the most brutal cultures, but they hang on to it. You walk around London and every Indian will not speak English with their child, they will speak Gujarati. You go to Tottenham and every Ghanaian will speak English with their...
I go to Tottenham, come to Accra. No, go to my village at Chelsea and find out that there are parents who speak English with their children.
So what then happens is, because the parent hasn't got that much vocabulary and only speaks English, the child then grows up, hasn't got any Chiga or Igbe to translate to English, so then you have very little vocabulary to...
But you'll understand that, okay, of course, culture is more than that. The Japanese, in spite of their development, are still Japanese. They still bow, they still observe their culture. But you must also understand that, as you know, culture is dynamic and it evolves. We have had a lot of influence for many years from 1472 when Don Diego de Zambuja arrived on our shores. And so some of that has affected our culture. But you're right that we are still a people. There's no doubt that the Scottish is Scot first before he's British. And the Northern Ireland man, the Irish is Irish before he's British. And the Englishman is English before he's British. So I can remain... Okay, I always have to calculate to find out where I come from in Ghana. But I think that I resolved that I must be Achim. So I can be Achim and still be a Ghanaian. Yeah. And the two identities mean something to me. As long as I don't think that because I'm Achim, everybody else doesn't matter. And so being aware of who we are, our culture, is very important, because you see, you must be rooted to something before you become geared. So you are rooted to the rock of who you are, and you are geared to the times. If we become too transfixed in our culture, immutable and not changing, we will lose our life, will pass us by. If we forget our culture and move with the times, we won't have any basis. I think that once again it's a mix of knowing who you are what cultural values you uphold, and then seeing that you still move with the times. And that is the balance that sometimes we don't have.
Let me come back to law. I mean, is the law fraternity going to capitalize on this 8 months of full advertising? I mean, this is positive advertising for 8 months in the law fraternity.
I think the last front page comment was that my senior friend Philip Addison was getting a lot of attention. But that's by the by. Now, yes, look, some of us quietly campaigned for the televising of the proceedings. I wrote an article which I argued that not televising it would be unconstitutional
because it has to be held in public.
It's a bit of a stretch, but I argued, and somehow it seemed to have gotten some good attention. It's been 8 months of a good advertisement. What do we do with it? I've been told that there are a lot of applications to the law school, so maybe it's going to lead to a growth in interest in the study of law. What we do with it from now is what each individual lawyer will decide to do with us. It's been great advertisement. I think that the lawyers did a great job, each and every one of them. There were ups and downs, but it's a state of the practice. You have the outright litigators, you have the academicians. We have the mix. So it's a good stage platform for us. They say the height of that the profession will gain from here is what we decide to do from this pedestal.
The other thing is the education that the Constitution is supreme and that the executive is not the ultimate power in this country. How do we? I keep trying to see how I can let people understand that the Supreme Court is supreme and not the executive, and that you need to protect it for your own good.
Well, they are evenly balanced. That's why separation of powers comes into play. But here you see the president being taken to court. He didn't go to court himself to be cross-examined, but his election being challenged by mere mortals. It's a humbling experience. And I think that Ghanaians have seen it. That there is indeed a president, but he's not the be-all and end-all. There's parliament, and there are the courts, and they can call him to order. Many Ghanaians do not know how many times the president loses cases in court. When 30-something-year-old judge will write and excoriate the president for acting illegally or unconstitutionally. Our history is replete with examples. We can only build from here, but where we go will depend on the foundation we have built and the direction that we have. It's all about foundation and direction.
I think we must also commend the president because, the executive is perceived to be power drunk, but there was no sign that he intervened or obstructed in any way. And I think it's very commendable.
There's no doubt about that. But me and my being anti-authority, he couldn't have done it. Those 9 ladies and gentlemen would have whipped him to order. He could not. But he did not, and he ought to be commended. And it's an example for us, all Ghanaians, to see how things actually shape up, flowing from our constitution and moving up. I think everybody's to be commended. Ghanaians need to pat ourselves on the back on a morning like this. It's a great day. Let's move on. But the question is that what foundations have we built and what direction do we have to move forward with? And in my view, the buck stops with the president.
Folks, I could talk to this guy till, the cows probably come home from grazing. But where do we go from here? Once the foundations have been laid, once the directions have been pointed, what do we do from here? Each and every one of us, from the head to the bottom. My name is Nana Ansakwa, and this is Personality Profile in the serene garden of Ace Ankomah's house. Until next Friday, have a brilliant week.